guys, it's Lindsay. Welcome back to The Wandering Reader. Today I'm going to be talking about 5 non-fiction audiobook recommendations. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that I have been listening to more and more audiobooks, and non-fiction is my favourite genre when it comes to audiobook listening. I tend to consume non-fiction much better in an audiobook format. I just really enjoy listening to non-fiction. So I thought I would pass on to you guys 5 recommendations that I have for non-fiction audiobooks. So the first one that I want to talk about today is Smoke Gets in Your Eyes and Other Lessons from the Crematorium by Caitlin Doherty. This is an audiobook that is read by the author herself, and I always really enjoy listening to audiobooks that are read by the writer. I just think there's a different sort of level that you get to that kind of audiobook. I think the writer can be a lot more nuanced in the way that they speak the book, if that makes any sort of sense. And I just really enjoy hearing it from their voice. So this particular book tells us Caitlin Doherty's story of when she worked in a crematorium, and she has a YouTube channel where she talks about that experience as well. And I think she started off with the YouTube channel and then wrote the book afterwards. But it's just all about her experience of working in a crematorium, and you wouldn't expect to look at that particular premise and think that you would enjoy it, because obviously it's about very morbid things and that sort of idea, but I actually found all of the things that she had to say really, really interesting. And I think because it's an area and a topic that people don't talk about very often, it made it all the more intriguing for that. So one thing that I will say about this audiobook, or about the book in general, is that there are some quite confronting moments. So I think if you're somebody who finds, who maybe is a little bit squeamish, or you've had a relative die recently and so you've gone through the whole experience of, going to a crematorium and things like that, I think you might want to consider kind of like how this might affect you. But I did really find it interesting. I loved listening to Caitlin's narration. And I would really recommend this. The next audiobook that I would like to recommend is Harry Potter: A History of Magic by Ben Davies, and the narrator on this is Natalie Dormer, and I adored her narration. She is a really prolific actress, and she had such a soft and soothing quality to her voice that it just made the listening experience even better. So this is a non-fiction book that is all about the different areas of magic and kind of the history of them, basically. So some of the stuff that they talk about, J.K. Rowling herself did some research into when she was writing the Harry Potter series, and other bits and pieces are things that, she didn't necessarily know, or things where they're delving deeper into where these particular practices come from and what people believed years and years ago. What's also nice about this audiobook is that you get snippets from people who work in institutions like the British Library and the New York Historical Society, and they're sort of experts in their fields, and they talk about particular documents that they've got in front of them, or manuscripts, or paintings, or whatever. And it was really interesting listening to them, because obviously they know exactly what they're talking about, and they're so articulate and intelligent in the way that they're talking about this particular artifacts, and I found that fascinating as well. And there are snippets from other people in there as well, like for example Jim Kay, the illustrator of the illustrated editions of the books. So yeah, really, really good audiobook, fascinating topic, really enjoyed it. The next one that I want to recommend is called A False Report, A True Story of Rape in America, and this is by T. Christian Miller and Ken Armstrong, and it's narrated by Hilary Huber, and you also get to hear from the writers themselves at the end of the audiobook as well. And this is basically a non-fiction book all about this particular case of rape in America. So it talks about this one girl who went to the police because she'd been raped, and she took back her accusation, and then later on down the line they started hearing about some rapes that were quite similar to hers, and these two journalists did a little bit more research into it, and obviously the police did as well, and it's about this case basically. So each section of the book talks about different rape cases, and then kind of like how they caught the rapist and kind of his backstory and things like that. And it was really, really fascinating. It made me quite angry at moments because, of course, you know, you're listening to about somebody who's committed these horrific crimes. But it was really eye-opening as well. It talked about the history of rape cases, and the way that the court system has handled rape cases in the past and things like that, which I found really, really interesting. I really enjoyed the narration on it, and I enjoyed listening to the two writers speak at the end about their experience of writing the book and things like that. This is actually an audiobook that I listened to with my husband while we were on holiday. And I think we listened to it on the way to the airport, and then a little snip of it every time in the evening when we were getting ready to go out for dinner. And it was a really nice experience from that sort of point of view as well, like listening to it together and sharing it together. And I think that's the other really lovely thing about audiobooks, is that you've got the opportunity to read something like that together, and you could do that in physical form, but you're, you know, live at the same time. And then discuss it afterwards. So yeah, really enjoyed that one, if you can use the word enjoyed, but anyway. Next up, I would like to recommend Bad Feminist Essays, and this is by Roxane Gay, and the narrator on this is Barney Turpin. I'm probably pronouncing that first name wrong, so I apologise. The reason why I liked this audiobook so much is because I felt like I could get to the end of an essay, you know, and each essay was maybe about 15 or 20 minutes long in terms of listening time. I could get to the end of an essay, press pause and have an opportunity to mull over what I'd heard, and really kind of get to grips with it in that sort of sense. And so I think, because well, let me talk about what this is about. So this basically is a collection of essays that Roxane Gay wrote about being a feminist, and you know, her experience of feminism, being black and being a feminist, and different aspects of feminism, but also like just living as a woman in sort of the modern time, as it were, or whatever. And yeah, I found the essays really fascinating. Some were a lot more interesting than others, or more thought-provoking than others. But I kind of felt like an audiobook was a good way of consuming this one, just because this can be quite, it could be construed as quite a heavy topic, and I kind of felt like I said, pausing it at the end of every essay gave me the opportunity to really mull things over, to really think about what had been said before I then moved on again. So yeah, would definitely recommend that one. And the last audiobook that I want to recommend is called The Year of Living Danishly, My 12 Months Unearthing the Secrets of the World's Happiest Country by Helen Russell, and the narrator on this one is Lucy Price-Lewis. And this is a book all about the writer's experience of moving to Denmark for a year. Her husband got a job with working for Lego, and so he convinced her that they should move from their house in London over to basically the middle of nowhere in Denmark, and he had a 1-year contract, and they were going to live there. Sorry, my phone fell on the floor. They were going to live there for a year, and each chapter of the book is about a different month while they were there and their experience of different things with living in Denmark. Really, really interesting book. I loved the narration on this one. I kind of felt like it was like listening to Helen Russell. I think the narrator really got it spot on when it came to kind of putting across her voice and her experience of living in Denmark. Yeah, the emotion of it and things like that I really got from it. It was a really pleasurable reading experience, and I think it's something like an 11 or 12 hour audiobook, but it was so quick to get through, and yeah, loved listening to that one. So there we go guys, they were 5 recommendations that I have for non-fiction audiobooks. I'd love to have a chat with you in the comments below. Have you read any of these books? Did you read them via audiobook? And I'd love to hear any recommendations you guys have got for non-fiction audiobooks, because like I said earlier, I really enjoy listening to non-fiction. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.